Hello and welcome to this week's show. I'm Janet Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Lewis.
And we are Green Wisdom Health, home of the low-cost lab work, where we help you get your health goals back in line with having a life worth living. And we are very excited about this week's show because we are going to be talking to you about running on empty, as many people are. They're tired, sick, overweight, don't know what's wrong with them, depending on that next cup of coffee to make sure that they can get through the whole day.
She looked at me when she said coffee.
No, not really. I'm actually talking about a girl named Teresa, and I'm sure you all know a girl named Teresa, but she was running on empty. She was 40 years old, 68 pounds heavier than her wedding day, and still adding almost a pound per month despite eating smaller and smaller portions. But a lot of people gain weight as they age, she had reasoned. She often felt very nauseous instead of hungry. After she ate, she said the nausea would return, sometimes much worse, and she had developed a hard knot in the core of her stomach. She just thought it's probably just a little bit of stress. And she was so tired, bone tired, all the time. Even basic household chores left her exhausted. She'd start a load of laundry, then take a rest on the couch just to gather enough energy to move it to the dryer. I know some of us can relate to that. She didn't sleep well and often had headaches. So, of course, she was tired, she assumed. But that wasn't all. She felt bloated, crampy, constipated most days, even when she wasn't about to start her period. But when her period did arrive, Teresa often had to take 12 ibuprofen capsules to survive the first day. She had visited doctors. Everything checked out fine. Normal, average, as many of you can probably relate. She told herself it was normal and just a part of getting older. But when she looked in the mirror, she didn't feel normal. She just felt old. Her skin was flat. Her eyes were dull. Her hair was brittle and graying and falling out. And she had lost her spark. And quick to irritation, short on patience, and often unable to concentrate, Teresa was frustrated, but a little resigned with her situation. After all, she thought, nothing's really wrong. I'm perfectly normal, especially given this crazy life. She was a manager of a software company. She traveled frequently. She had family life, church commitments. Everything kept her on the go, so she had very little time for exercise, less for rest, and meals were always a hassle. She did her best with nutrition. She tried to grab an apple in the afternoon, tried to remember to take a multivitamin now and then, but it didn't make any difference. Teresa admits it now. She was overcommitted and overweight, but undernourished. Perfectly normal for today's average busy person. Right? Is that right, Dr. Lewis?
Just because it's common don't mean it's normal.
That's right. It's wrong. If you feel at all like Teresa, we must tell you it's unacceptable.
Don't be Teresa.
Right. It isn't right. So what we're going to help you understand today is that there is joy and a productive life coming, more than just getting through the day, and that we're here to help you figure out why and what to do about it, and that you don't have to live in a desperate despair of waiting to die. So, Dr. Lewis, with that, I will let you take it, and you tell people what Teresa should be doing or what happened along the way and how to get it back.
Well, I'm going to take you through a few little rabbit trails and rabbit holes, to honor Dr. Amanda, because she loves it when I do that. I'm going to talk about a lot of things, which is not uncommon at all. But, fatigue, we hear that all the time. And sometimes we're too tired to do these things because we work. But we do take a lot of time to play, and sometimes we're guilty of playing too hard. So, folks, don't forget, some of the best things you can do is get quiet and be still. That's a very important thing. So, as far as fatigue, there's a long list of symptoms that goes with fatigue, and I'm sure Janet will get, further into it than me, but you have to get be careful about looking at a list and saying, well, that means I have adrenal problems, or that means I have a thyroid problem, because those same lists can go to a lot of other potential problems. But the things that cause us to have long-term loss of energy or fatigue is anger, fear, anxiety, guilt. People are depressed and all kinds of negative emotions. Now, a lot of that can come physiologically because you don't have the right kind of nutrients in there for your body to work correctly. Much of that can come because you don't have the proper probiotics, and you've heard me talk about how different types of probiotics can lower your stress levels and lower your cortisol levels. But there's so many people that create their own negative emotions. You know, they're constantly worrier. They look for what can possibly go wrong, and then they blow it up and make it worse than what it is, which gives you a bad response from your adrenal glands, which eventually will tear up your thyroid too. You know me, I try to think more about the people that we have that are wonderful and beautiful and make our lives better, but I can't help but to feel sorry for or to mourn over people that had the answer and died too early. Okay, I'm trying to be nice here. Got one laying in the mortuary now that is like, well, it ain't like you didn't have the answers, but she didn't love herself enough to do it, and she's much younger than me. Very, very lovely lady. And, how do we get to the point where we love ourselves enough to be able to do some of these things? So be aware of negative emotions, and you've heard me talk before about different books. You know, I read many dozens per year. Janet just ordered me, 6 or 8. So one of the best books you can read is called Negaholics, and it's how you get into a negative feedback loop. Other ways they get fatigued is overwork, and which can be physical or mental. And I promise you, Janet and I are guilty of that too. We love our job, and sometimes it gets to be quite taxing. So we have to focus on the people that are good and the people that bring us joy, bring us laughter, bring us up. We just were surprised today because we had some from quite a long way away drop by. So thank you, Carl and Leslie. It was seriously a pleasure to meet you. We've dealt with this family over the phone for a long time, and one of the things that make them winners is they're consistent. And so thank you for dropping by because I like it. It made me feel better. Thank you. So focus on what brings you up. I see people that do excessive exercise and destroy their body. Sleep deprivation, we're going to talk a little bit about sleep. We've done that before, and that's an issue with me. We do have all kinds of new, exciting things about that. Any kind of trauma, surgery, injuries, even minor car wrecks, 6 to 8 miles per hour can give you a lot of trauma. Chronic inflammation, and that's usually gastrointestinal, although it can be other ways. And we test the CRP, which is more cardiovascular specific, but that can be kind of a cascade of things that come from
chronic inflammation.
Yeah. And I promise you, and sometimes I stutter, and I know I go down rabbit trails, but sometimes it is just because I'm really, really tired. There have been many, many, many real research articles that connect different types of inflammation to different kinds of diseases like cancer. That's chronic disease is a major contributing factor. Heart attacks and cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's.
So you're saying inflammation is the leading culprit there in all of those?
Absolutely. And, the inflammatory cytokines can almost always be a major contributing factor or cause to some of the autoimmune diseases. Psoriasis, lupus, asthma, pancreatitis can do that. Psoriasis, oh Lord, those people, they think you're a hero when you fix them, and that takes time and certainly takes a certain measure of faith to pull that off. We've got some new allergy supplements, and of course, we can't say any of this is meant to treat a symptom or disease because according to the FDA, the only thing that can heal is a drug. I think the only thing that can heal is God. but it pays, I think, to put some different nutrition and building blocks for your body to do the job. So inflammation, and that means you don't have enough antioxidants. I can tell all kinds of stories. I mean, it's just where do you want me to go with it? But you have to constantly do this. And, well, I'll just tell a quick story. Over the weekend, Janet and I went to a seminar on brain function, and it was really, really extremely brilliant people teaching this thing. I was quite impressed. And they said to keep the brain healthy, you have to keep the GI tract healthy. And the night before we went to this seminar, Janet literally begged me to allow her to take me to the hospital because I'd had a round of diverticulitis. And then I said, no, I'm not going to the hospital. And I was very, very ill. But I toughed it out and went. And they said, oh, if you want your brain healthy, you've got to keep your guts healthy. And of course, that's a very oversimplification. And we learned a lot. And, part of that is the microbiome or the good probiotics and how to get them in there. And the prebiotics, which I think is a pretty misunderstood term. But, they showed us research where, how they're talking about these athletes that go into this CTE disease, the brain problems after post-concussion syndrome. They said the ones that just spontaneously went away were the ones that had a good gut microbiome and a healthy GI tract, and the brain healed because of that. So maybe we should pay attention. And I'm not saying it's because you have your head up your rectum. It's because they really, really are connected. And Janet bought me a book on that one too. There's some really, really interesting books that people should pay attention to. But fatigue is a pretty serious issue. I always think look for lack of nutrients, look for too many toxins in the environment, look to the GI tract. And I've had people come in literally with tears in their eyes and say, do you believe in chronic fatigue syndrome? Do you believe in fibromyalgia? And when I say yes, ma'am, they cry even more. And I think it's because they think my mustache is ugly. I don't know. But it's like they finally had somebody that actually believed that their symptoms were real. And I'd say, yes, ma'am, but, we have to normalize your GI tract, and we have to do this and this and this, and you cannot do it alone. You have to have a dear friend or spouse or somebody to help you through this because it took you years to get into that condition, and it's going to take you months to get out of it.
Well, does that have anything to do with adrenal fatigue as well? Because I know as you get more inflamed and your body gets more stressed, aren't your adrenals involved in it? Yeah.
Usually they go really, really high. And I talked to a young lady this morning, and her adrenals, her cortisol was a 22.5, which is like, she says, what does that mean? I said, do you know how dangerous Interstate 20 is when it's raining? There's always somebody who has wrecks. There's deaths very, very commonly between here and Dallas. Something wrong with I-20, I'm sure. I said, you're going 135 miles per hour on a slick I-20 with your cortisol running at 22.5. You're going to crash and burn. It's just a matter of when. So you need to learn to get still. You need to learn to nourish your adrenal glands. And one of the things that Janet doesn't know that I'm going to talk about is something we use called Adrenal. All right.
I do know about Adrenal because I forgot to put it in my menagerie of pills that I take. And I do mean menagerie. I take all kind of things to try to stay up and make sure you guys have everything you need, because it's a pretty big job keeping up with all of this. And doing it in a timely manner, which we try to do.
Mm-hmm. She didn't know I was going to talk about it, though.
I did not know that, but for a couple of days, I accidentally left it out of my supplements, and I thought, what is going on with me? It's like I just wanted to go to sleep on my desk, and I realized that I had left Adrenal out, which it says only do 2 a day. Well, I decided to start taking 2 of them in the morning and 2 of them at lunch. Is like instantly peppy again, because it has a lot of adaptogenic herbs in it that that make your adrenals feel good.
It's real popular. I mean, people get a really good response. We're always trying to find bigger, better products, ones that are more absorbable and that cost less. And Adrenal seems to be the big kahuna. And I don't know that we'll ever get any better than that, but we're always working. But yeah, you have to support your adrenals, because if they go to heck in a bucket, sooner or later your thyroid is too. And another product that, and this may not even be the time to talk about products, I don't know, but Janet let me talk, so here we go.
I let him ramble.
Yeah, rabbit hole, Amanda. She knows who she is. There's something called Mitocore, which is a product that we've just now decided to get in, and we're getting like, oh my God, results from it, like people that work super, super hard in a toxic environment, like people that work on the pipeline, welding the pipes, so they're inhaling the welding gases, which is full of heavy metals. And I'm saying heavy metals because that's one of the questions that we have that's going to come up. And we're getting reports back like, oh my God, Dr. Lewis, I can't believe how good I feel. I feel like I was 25 again. And I'd say, well, Jimmy, you're late 50s and you don't look 25. And, well, I'm still big enough to whip you. I said, yep, you really are. But it's got some really, really good stuff in, not just to nourish the body, but to extract some of the things that can interfere with the energy production in the cell. That's called the mitochondria, where the energy is actually produced. So that's been very, very popular. We can tell if it's going to be a good product if we get it in, and 1, 2, 3 weeks later, people are saying, oh my God, I can tell a huge difference. Yes, Janet takes a lot of stuff, but literally she looks better than she did 10 years ago, and she looked really, really good back then, of course. Yeah,
good. That's good.
Yeah, but she has to work at it, because if you're going to work at the pace that we work, you have to supplement your body, and you have to be kind to the temple. You have to be willing to spend the time, the energy, the effort, and the money. People don't mind spending money on things that destroy the temple, but they sure kick and scream about doing something that's going to make it probably last longer, but certainly have a better quality of life. So if you don't have that self-love, look to your spouse, because they should build you up with that.
Well, one of the reasons we decided to do this show, because there's a lot of Teresas out there, like the story we told. We met one yesterday that told me that she said, isn't it normal to take your kids down to the bus stop and take a nap before you go back home? And I said, come again? And she goes, oh, yeah, many times I have to take a nap before I can walk back up to my house from where I just dropped them off at the bus stop. And so, those are signs of adrenal fatigue. And in case you don't know what some of the signs are, I'm going to give you a few of them so you'll know. Fatigue and weakness, especially in the morning or afternoon, like you just can't make it through the day. A suppressed immune system. For those of you that we've run lab on and we've told you your immune system's low, I have that issue. Immune system, your white blood cell count should optimally be about a 7 to an 8. There are many of you out there that are operating at a 3 to a 5 on that. So your body's extremely tired. Increased allergies. And I know many people go, oh, well, it's pollen. It's that time of the year. Yeah, that does aggravate it. But if you've already got that going on to start with, that's just like icing on the cake that puts you over the top.
Think food allergies. And we do have some new testing coming up that's going to be really, really good.
Yes, we don't want to get you too excited about that yet. But yes, we do. We are going to lunch with a new lab company next week, and we're going to learn about all of the different testing we can do to find out what you are allergic to.
For intestinal permeability, for heavy metal testing, for allergies, and immunoglobulins. It's going to be really, really super.
And then more signs of adrenal fatigue are muscle and bone loss and muscular weakness.
Oops, must be me.
Depression is actually a sign of adrenal fatigue. Cravings for foods high in salt, sugar, or fat.
I got the stink eye on that one.
I think he took that and ran. Hormonal imbalances, skin problems.
Keep your mouth shut, guys, if you think your wife has a hormonal imbalance, because women that have hormonal imbalances live a lot longer than men that talk about it.
That's right. Don't you forget it. Autoimmune disorders. Increased PMS or menopausal symptoms in women.
Keep your mouth shut, men.
Low sex drive, and that can go for either side. Lightheadedness when getting up from sitting or lying down.
If you're not a dizzy blonde and that is happening, then there may be an issue.
Decreased ability to handle stress. So if that person is getting on your last nerve and they shouldn't be there yet, there could be an adrenal issue.
It's probably not them. It could be you.
That's right. Trouble waking up in the morning despite a full night's sleep.
Yeah, if you get up in the morning thinking about when you can get back on the couch, you might be a redneck.
And poor memory. And
what'd you say? Never mind.
And the one thing we'd tell you, always, don't guess at what's going on with your health, because so many people are going to go, oh, this is me. I have all this. Yes, it can be. But there could be so many other things going on also, like the lady I told you about yesterday that had to take a nap on her way back from the bus stop. She actually had an autoimmune problem in her thyroid that she did not know she had. So had she not run lab, we would have never known that, and neither would she. So if you're going, oh, well, lab's expensive. Well, not through us. When we're talking about this, you literally can run what we call our comprehensive panel. It's $298. It includes 12 panels of lab, a functional medicine report, and your complimentary consultation with Dr. Lewis, as well as what we would recommend for supplements so that you would not guess at what you need to take.
And I put on my cheerleading outfit and cheer you into better health.
Yes. So if you don't know what's wrong, please don't guess and just go, hey, let me just try this. Or if you try it and it doesn't work for you, there's probably some underlying problem there that you're missing out on. And we can order this lab in all but 2 states in the United States. So
2 or 3. It vacillates between the 2.
Yeah, so there's generally one close to you, so there's no need for you to guess any longer. Go on our website, greenwisdomhealth.com, and fill out our health survey and quit living like this, because it's not worth it. Because that's what Teresa wound up doing. She wound up getting herself healthy, because I know you're all wondering what happened to her. And then we got a couple of questions we're going to answer, or Dr. Lewis is going to answer for you too. But Teresa wound up seeing a nutritionist, and she got a reputable nutritional company, which that's important. And she began eating less meat and cutting out her sugar and detoxifying her system and pushing out the years of pollution from prescription drugs, processed food, and stress. She started working to cleanse first and then build her damaged digestive tract. And after about 4 months of gentle, consistent cleansing, she started feeling better. Her skin began to glow. Her hair regained its luster and body. And I know all you women are always asking me about that. And her hair was thicker, and some of the gray hairs even started to turn brown. So you can start looking youthful again instead of like something in a petrified forest. So Teresa got her life back, and that's what we want for you too. So Dr. Lewis, we have a couple of questions that we need to answer about cleansing. We have Alice that asks about what testing do we have if you have heavy metals in your system. So does that go to our new lab panels that we're doing?
Well, you can get on Ultalab, and they're on our website, and go to the lab. There are different heavy metal tests that we can do. And then, as Janet said, we're going to lunch next week with a guy to Dallas to kind of open up our options about other testing. So, heavy metals, yes. There's so many different possibilities. And, if there's anybody that's connected to a hair analysis company, put me to the challenge, because I've done hair analysis 2 different times. I did 2 different names, 2 different sets of symptoms, but the same hair. One time they matched 40%. The other time they matched 50%. But it was the same hair. They should have matched 100%. So I'm not sure about hair analysis for that reason. So if you have that company, challenge me. I'll go through it again. But We're about to be hooked up with an even more extensive heavy metal test. And some of the things, if you think you may be exposed, would be toxic element exposure, which is all of us, but hairdressers, nail techs, people that spray pesticides, welders, etc. Balding hair, bone density problems, cardiovascular disease can definitely be connected to their depression, dermatitis or skin diseases.
And that's interesting you say that, because the lady I was telling you about that we found had the autoimmune problem in her thyroid was a cleaning lady. She did cleaning with chemicals.
Bad chemicals.
Mm-hmm. And they say many times that creates an autoimmune problem.
And she had the most bizarre I looked at the lab and said, I won't tell you what I said, but it was like it scared me.
We said, we can help you.
It was so scary what she had. I begged her to share treatment with an endocrinologist. I don't think what we do is treating everything. I just say throw it in, let God sort it out. But other potential signs of heavy metal toxicity is fatigue. But again, you know that fatigue can be so many other things, but it can be the heavy metals. GI symptoms, high blood pressure, immune function issues, impaired glucose tolerance, which is all of us with high insulin and or high blood sugar. Kidney function, it's almost always a heavy metal. Well, I shouldn't say almost always. Many times it is. And nutritional deficiencies, because your body's taking what few nutrients you have, trying to detox this stuff, just not enough of it to do it.
Cool. Okay. So hopefully that answered Alice's question. And then we have one from Tricia that said, can regular blood work indicate if there is underlying cancer or disease processes that have yet to become symptomatic?
And I got a similar question from Maggie also. There are some tests that you can do, that would check for antigens for, say, prostate cancer or breast cancer or ovarian and uterine cancer. And I'm certainly not an expert on cancer. I always suggest that you go to a specialist, an oncologist or hematologist. I definitely prefer the ones that will help you do the natural stuff too. But yeah, you can see underlying things before they get symptomatic. Some people say, but I don't feel it. I said, well, there's so many people who didn't feel their heart disease till 5 minutes before their heart attack killed them. So how you feel really is, feelings is a very small amount of what's really going on. Let me tell you real quick. Can these things help? We said earlier about the guy that had 35 on his PSA, and he's got full-blown prostatic cancer that's metastasized into the bone. Well, his PSA, his daughter was crying when she talked to Janet and said, well, it went down to, I think it was about a 9 within 3 weeks. I just got his lab back today, and it's down to a 4.27.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they left the lab at lunch. So, folks, I'm not curing cancer. I'm not treating cancer, but you throw things in that your body needs to work with, and God can bless it and make you better, hopefully have a longer life, but for sure you can have a higher quality life. So, yes, Tricia, you're doing a good job getting your lab work and a couple of glasses of wine, and you won't have to worry about anything. I love teasing Tricia.
So I guess the answer to that question is there are markers that you can tell if you don't get something under control, you have a better chance of having cancer down the road. Would that be an accurate statement on blood work? Yeah,
and maybe we need to go back and finish the podcast we didn't finish on cancer and some of the statistics. I'd like to do that because that was the one I didn't get in enough Stevenisms. I got a lot of smart aleck Stevenisms I'd like to put in. We just know if the body stays in an inflamed state for a long period of time, and a lot of the lab values are not getting help, and the body can only go so long on a wing and a prayer, literally. Yeah. And at some point, it can't take anymore. So that's when you get cancer and those kind of things. Yeah, disease is just adaptive physiology, and it's adapted to bad situation. But yes, Tricia, I think you can see some of this coming. I mean, I know you can see a lot of it coming. So, and it's not necessarily what you feel. And the issue with nutrition is you don't know what you missed out on if you start taking something, because people say, well,
well, I don't know if I'd have had that or not. Well, none of us do. We just know that when people walk into this office, you can always tell the ones that's been taking nutrition for many years because they look completely different than people that are just learning about it.
Amen.
So on that note, we hope you've enjoyed the show. We hope you're not tired. And if you are tired, you know how to now get help. So there's no need to live like that in quiet desperation. We hope you guys have a very blessed week, and we'll talk to you here next time on the Green Wisdom Health Show. Have a blessed week.